What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Sactown Movie Buffs. Once again, I'm Kier, and this is Jason, and we are back doing our top 10 films of 2013. So we're still moving. We're still plugging away at these top 10. So if this is your first time joining us, we basically have been doing this series starting back from 1995 when Jason and I first met. We've basically been doing a top 10 films of every year subsequent, and now we're all the way up to 2013. Once again, we break these shows up into two parts. So this part will be part one, which is basically going to be our number 10 through number 6. And then you'll want to come back for another day when we do our part 2, which is our number 5 through number 1, with some honorable mentions if we have those as well. However, on this show, we actually do our challenge films for each other. So Jason selected a film for me to watch that I've never seen, that he's seen before, and I selected a film for Jason to watch that I've seen that he's never seen before.
From 2013.
Was that?
Yeah, from 2013.
2013, sorry, yeah. From 2013, yeah. We do it for the same year, so yeah.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with the film that you selected for me, so I'll go ahead and get that started. I'll bring that in, so let's get into it. And that film is going to be The Bling Ring. So The Bling Ring is basically kind of based on a true story directed by Sofia Coppola. It's based on a true story where basically these kids, and some of you may have heard this story before, but there's basically a group of kids down in like the LA, Hollywood area that basically went on like this rampage spree of basically breaking into like celebrities' homes and basically stealing their stuff. So that's kind of the gist of the movie, basically. So basically how it works is these group of kids that all are in high school, or they're still in high school. They're like 17, 18 years old, and they basically, what they would do is they would basically research like these big celebrities like Paris Hilton and people of this nature. A lot of socialites or younger people, that kind of stuff. And they would find out like if they were going to be going to like a party or something of that nature. So they would they would see that Paris Hilton's going to some party or whatever case may be on this night. And when they basically found out when they were going to this party, they would basically look up their address and basically go to their house and break in, which 90% of the time they really didn't have to break in. They weren't like smashing windows or anything like that, because for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, maybe because they live in Hollywood or they live in these nice cities or whatever, the celebrities just left their doors unlocked. So they didn't lock the doors or anything of that nature. So they would just go around and like just jimmy on the doorknobs or windows or whatever until they could find like an unlocked door. And they would just go in and basically, start like rummaging through their stuff. So they would, go through their safes and sometimes they would get money. Sometimes they would get clothes, glasses, whatever case may be, whatever they could find that they liked of these celebrities. They would basically just steal it. And a lot of times they had so much time that they were like hanging out and just, having a good time. And especially with like, I think Paris Hilton's the main one, because I want to say they went back to her house like 5 or 6 times because she never noticed they had broken in. So she never actually noticed that they were actually breaking into her house. So they kept going back to her house and would be hanging out. Like she had like an entertainment area with like a party house and things of that nature. So they would go in there with like a group of friends and party and just have a really good time and that kind of thing. And then they would find like another celebrity that was going to be at a different party. And they basically got to the point where they would look at the celebrity style. And they were like, oh, I really like, so-and-so. I really could use, some Prada glasses. They like to wear Prada. Find out when they're going to be out of town again. And they would basically find out when they were going to be out of town or traveling or whatever they were doing. They're like, oh, looks like they're going to be at this party out in Oh, cool. Well, let's go to their house tonight. And they would just go to their house and break in and get guns and money and jewelry and clothing and all kinds of sorts of things. And that's basically kind of the gist of the movie. And like I said, I don't want to go into too much of a spoiler. You can obviously look up exactly what happened to those kids. Because it's based on a true story, you can probably deduct that eventually they get caught. So I don't think it's a spoiler at this point, especially from 2013. which you're kind of just, I don't know, when you're watching the movie. When I was watching, that's pretty much what I was kind of waiting for. I did remember the story. I don't remember exactly what happened, to those kids or whatever. But I mean, obviously, I know if a story's being told about these kids, and more than likely, they get caught because they're actually doing interviews while they're. So they would be doing interviews with the kids, like after the fact, and they were like talking to like an investigator or interview person and explaining like why they did what they did. They were like, oh, we didn't know that it was gonna get as big as it did, or we just started off small and then we just kind of got invested and we just kept doing it. We kind of figured we might get caught someday, but and that kind of stuff. So. But that's kind of the gist of the film. I liked it. It was a decent film. I can't say I loved it or anything like that. I mean, it's kind of you kind of know where that story's going. But like I said, I do like the teen films where kids are doing bad things.
Bad kids movies. We both like those.
Yeah. There's, actually one I'll probably be talking about later in the show. But yeah, there's always these bad kid movies and that kind of stuff where they're doing things they're not supposed to do. Kids is the one that comes to example for me. Basically about these young kids that are doing totally terrible things in that nature. It wasn't quite as good as a lot of those ones like that where they were really, really doing bad things, but I did enjoy it. I did think it was fun. So yeah, I did like this one. I'd probably give it 3 out of 5. So just a nice smile. It was just a fun film. You kind of knew what you were getting with it, but and you're not really that sympathetic to the kids either, though. So that's also kind of the problem with it because they're the stars of the film. You're not that sympathetic because they were just bad kids doing bad things. So you kind of were partially hoping they get caught. I mean, you didn't have much sympathy for the rich celebrities as well, especially someone like Paris Hilton. And I don't know if this is true or not, but, for example, when they go into her house, she has nothing but pictures of just herself on all the walls. Which I don't know if it's 100% true, but I could totally see that. You know what I mean?
I wouldn't be surprised.
It seems totally into her. And I didn't feel as bad because half the time these celebrities didn't even know that their houses were being broken into. It was the only reason why some of them, why they primarily even started getting caught was because some people did have security cameras, but a lot of them didn't even have security cameras at their home. So they didn't even know that they were getting broken into. But, like I said, they broke into all kinds of celebrities' homes, hers, Lindsay Lohan. Seems like a lot of the socialites were the ones they really went after. So the ones that were out there partying and into the scene because those people weren't home very often. So it was very easy to take advantage of someone that's always on the go or always out partying, or because you can predict their schedule, Friday nights, she likes to go partying at you know what I mean? So then they would just go and break in. But even before they started breaking into homes, they were always, they would be walking down the street and pulling on car doors or whatever and going inside and looking for purses and wallets and things of that nature to rob from people. So they were always doing pretty, bad stuff. And then obviously they were also involved in drugs and things of that nature. So just, like I said, just kids behaving badly. But I gave it 3 out of 5. And yeah, like I said, I did enjoy it. So good recommendation.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I like that movie. I haven't seen it since 2013. I saw it in the theater, but I remember liking it then. And it reminding me of those movies that, like you mentioned, and especially Better Luck Tomorrow. It reminds me of that one a lot because it's also one about the quote unquote the good kids, the wealthy kids that no one would really think would be getting into this kind of stuff, which is why they were able to do it for a while.
These kids were already somewhat affluent already. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They weren't
they didn't need those. They didn't need that stuff.
Most of them were already living in the Hollywood area. So, and they were already getting into parties and things of that nature with celebs and things of that nature. So they weren't these poor, struggling kids that were robbing celebrities because they needed the money. They were robbing them because they wanted to, and they wanted that lifestyle. They wanted to be a part of that stardom. So they had money. They just weren't stars. I think some of the girls were actually trying to get into that industry, but none of them were really doing anything in the entertainment industry. They were just these rich kids that were basically, hey, she's got Prada, she's not home. Let's go in her house and steal some stuff. So
yeah, probably not much parental supervision, I'm guessing, if I remember correctly, but yeah.
No, definitely not. Because the boy that's in there, his mom was, I think he was a I don't know if his dad lived with him or he just lived with it. Oh, his dad traveled a lot, so he was never there because he was like some executive for some movie company or whatever. So he was always traveling. Two of the
Yeah.
girls were like raised at home. They were like homeschooled by like some like hippie like like teacher mom, you know what I mean? Their mom was like some hippie like whatever, like every morning she would give them like their Adderall and Xanax and like
Oh yeah, I remember
and,
that.
yeah. So they weren't
Yeah.
like, these weren't like your regular typical high school kids. They were going to like, they lived in like Calabasas, which is, where I think like the Kardashians live or something. So they weren't poor kids by any means. They were just doing it because they wanted to and they wanted money. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm glad you liked it though.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
cool. And
Yeah.
then you had a homework assignment as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the film I chose for you was Rush. So bring that
Rush.
in. So tell us a little bit about Rush.
Yeah. So Rush is about a famous rivalry between two race car drivers. One, James Hunt, played by Chris Hemsworth, who was a British race car driver, and Nicky Lauda, played by Daniel Bruhl, who was from Austria. So this all happened from around 1970 to 1976. So it predates me, and I'm not a big race car. I don't follow the Grand Prix or anything NASCAR or anything like that. So I'm not super into race car driving, and I didn't know this story going in. But it is a famous rivalry that went on between them. And long story short, I really like this movie a lot. In fact, it was probably my favorite movie of the ones that you've assigned me so far, probably. But yeah, I liked it a lot. I don't know anything about race car driving. I didn't know anything about this feud going in. But it's just a really good movie.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth is really good in it. He's kind of my favorite of like all the Chris's right now, like Hemsworth, Evans, Pine, Pratt. I like all four of them, but I think Chris Hemsworth is probably the most talented all around, I guess. I like all of them though, but anyway, I think he's a really good actor, and I hope he, nothing against Marvel, but I hope he gets kind of out of that machine eventually and gets to do stuff like this, like actual like character roles
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
some point.
Yeah, you don't want to be known as just the Thor guy for the rest of your life.
yeah. Because he can obviously do like actual movies too. Nothing against Marvel again, but yeah, he's really good in this movie, and Daniel Bruhl is too. Who I really don't know. I think he's more well known in Germany and Austria.
Yeah.
I primarily know him from *Inglourious Bastards*, as probably most American viewers do. But yeah, it's a really entertaining movie. It's funny. It's well acted. It's exciting. The race car scenes are exciting, even though I'm not really into race car driving. And one thing I really liked about it is that it's a Ron Howard movie, and Ron Howard's one of those directors who, he's a good director, but he's never really done anything that I've loved. You know what I mean? Like he makes like really like mainstream dramas seems to be his cup of tea, like A Beautiful Mind and Apollo 11, which are good, but they're not the kind of movies that get me excited really. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're just kind of like Oscar type movies. You know what I mean? But this one I thought was really good.
Yeah, I thought it was
And I
fun. You know
thought,
what I mean? I thought it was a
yeah,
realistic, fun race car movie. It didn't quite make my top 10, but it's definitely my honorable mentions. So it's definitely one of those films that I enjoyed. And I thought that you might like, because I feel like I'm not a big race car driver person either. I don't know anything about the Indy 500 or Grand Prix or any of that stuff either. I mean, I like the Fast and Furious movies, but they're fake racing. They're not like, racing on race car tracks. At least not anymore. Maybe in the first film they did that a little bit,
yeah.
but I just thought it was a really cool story, and I thought it was interesting. And it's like I said, it's based on a true story, and the rivalry they had and the differences they had and that kind of stuff. I thought that was fun. So
Yeah, it was really good. And one thing I really appreciated is that not only is it set in the early mid 70s, they obviously went out of their way to make it look like a 70s movie too, which I thought was cool, because a lot of movies are set in a certain period, but they don't feel like a movie from that period. Like the Trial of Chicago 7 is set in the 60s, but it feels like a 2020 movie. You know, it feels like a modern movie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, set in the 60s, but it feels like a modern movie. Nothing against those movies. I love those movies. But this was cool because it's set in the 1970s and it looks and feels like a 1970s movie. You know what I mean? Like it's got that kind of color palette and that kind of grittiness to it, to the film stock. So that's something that they went out of their way to do, you can tell, but not to be like super showy with like, you know, crackles in the film and stuff like that. It just looks like an older movie. And that's maybe part of the reason why it probably didn't do that well at the box office, because it doesn't look shiny and new. It looks like a movie that's set in the 70s and came out in the 70s. But
for sure.
I really enjoyed it though. Thanks for the recommendation. It was always kind of on my list, but I don't know when, if ever, I would have gotten to it if you hadn't.
I don't know if I saw it in theaters. It's been almost a decade now, but I do know that it wasn't a film that I was like dying to see. I don't remember how I came across seeing it. I can't remember that far back. I want to say it was just on TV one night or coming on or something like that, and I just happened to check it out. It must have been because it wasn't initially in even my top 20 for 2013. So it must have been, but I rated it high, so I must have seen it after I already did my list or something like that. So, but yeah, like I said, it's just a really, really good, more realistic type race film. I actually preferred it over that other one that came out a couple years ago with Matt Damon and
Christian Bale, Ford versus Ferrari. I felt the same exact way.
Yeah, I prefer this one over Ford versus Ferrari. I think this one was just a little more gritty, I felt like, and a little more real. A little more real, yeah.
Yeah.
So, whereas,
the other one is it's a popcorn movie.
Like a Hollywood propped up, just for entertainment, whereas this one felt like a real story. So
right. I agree.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, cool. Well, glad you dug it, man. What's the overall grade you would give that one?
Oh, I gave it 4 out of 5, B+. So
cool. Glad you enjoyed it, man. That's the same grade I would probably give it as well. So yeah, perfect.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Well,
we spent like half an hour. It feels like we spent like half an hour on the challenge movies. We better get to the top 10.
Yeah. We're getting into it right now. We definitely are about 17 minutes in, so we're getting into those right now. So I'll go ahead and kick it off with my number 10 film of 2013. I'll bring that in. And that's going to be 12 Years a Slave, which is a really, really, really good, powerful movie. Most people have seen 12 Years a Slave. It was directed by Steve McQueen, right? Yeah, directed by Steve McQueen. It has an all-star cast in it, and basically it's literally based on a true story about a man that was freed, that was living, I think, in New York. I haven't seen it in like 13 years, so or not 13, but I haven't seen it since 2013, I should say. He was living in New York and basically was a musician and was like a traveling musician and got invited to go to like this like show where he got like either drunk or drugged or something of that nature. And when he woke up, he was basically sold into slavery basically by some people that he trusted. And long story short, he ended up in the South as a slave for basically 12 years before he was able to regain his freedom. That's kind of the skinny of the story without going too much into details, but it's a very, very powerful movie. One that I really enjoy. If you haven't seen 12 Years a Slave, I highly, highly recommend you check that one out. But it's just a really, really good, fantastic film. And 2013 was actually a really, really tough year for me also. I just want to point that out. Like that being number 10 is not a slight in any kind of way for me at all. I mean, obviously if you're watching, I'm sure there's films that are in my top 10 that you might have liked better than 12 Years a Slave. But for me, it was a really, really tough year for me to narrow down a top 10 because I like so many movies from that year. I think I have like a top 25 for that year. So, but yeah, just phenomenal film, 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah, I feel the same way. That's one that's definitely on my list too, higher up. But yeah, I can second what you said about 2013. It was, we're getting up in years. I mean, we still got a few to go, but we're getting up in years now to where a lot of these movies that we're talking about are still fresh in my brain, even if I only saw them back then. But 12 Years a Slave, I've watched it. I saw it in the theater at least once, and I've watched it at home at least once. It's not not an easy movie to watch by any
Right.
means, but it is, I think, a masterpiece. So, yeah, great movie, great acting, great cinematography. Yeah, it's not easy to watch, but it's a story that needed to be told. So,
For sure.
yeah,
I
yeah,
agree. Definitely.
yeah.
Cool. All right, moving on to your number 10. I'll go and bring that in for you. And your number 10 is going to be World War Z.
Yeah, so how's that for a switch up from your number 10 to my number 10?
From slaves to zombies, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting too, like just to go on about 2013 a little bit, that like I did we're getting up in the years now where I've done like a letterboxed list for this back then.
Right.
And I look at that and I did a top 25 for that year. And my top 5 are staying exactly the same. But for the rest of it, like, most of my current top 10 are ones that I had in the lower reaches of 25 back then. But, you
Right.
look at them, it's basically you look at them now. And even though it felt like it was in the right order back then, I don't know if it's the same for you, but it felt like it
Yeah.
was in the right order back then. But now it's like, oh no, that one, and that one are the best ones, and I'm like
Yeah. I kept
moving
my
those up
top.
into the top 10.
Yeah, I kept my top 5 the same. I maybe shifted around the order a bit, but definitely the bottom 5. I definitely played around with that like every which way I could, and it was weird because like I would rate something like 3.5 or 4 stars. But then I was like, I see another movie that I rated lower, and I'd be like, I rated this one lower, but I actually enjoy this film more, so I'm gonna put it up, you know what I mean, higher, even though I technically gave it a lower grade, you know what I mean? So
Right, right, and I think World War Z is one of those. It's like I didn't put it in my top 10 back then, and it's probably because I didn't think it was good enough, or I put something that was had more depth or something up higher. But when I'm looking at it, it's like, oh yeah, that was one of my favorites of that year for sure.
mhm.
So yeah, I love World War Z. I think it's an absolute blast. I think a lot of people were bagging on it when it came out because it was PG-13, and there are a lot of horror movie purists who don't think you can make a good PG-13 horror movie, which I think is absolutely false. You
I
can
agree.
definitely make a good PG-13 horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like this movie. I think I like it when like horror is my genre, so I like it when someone like Brad Pitt is in like a horror movie because you don't expect it. You don't expect. I would have never expected Brad Pitt to be in a zombie movie, but there he is in like a really full-on apocalyptic, crazy zombie movie. But yeah, I really like it a lot. I read the book that it's based on. The movie is nothing like the book at all. The book is more like it's kind of like a fake history book almost in a way. It's like it's kind of like it's like a fake uh, like a like it's a history book. Like it's like this is what happened. This is the story of how the world ended. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's like a factual breakdown almost. That's really cool, but it would have been almost impossible to make a movie out of. So I get it.
Right,
I
right.
get it. They had
And
to
I
make
and
it
I
a
know
zombie
they were
movie.
supposed to do sequels. I think they're still on the docket to do a sequel to it. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but there probably would be more to that story if they continue to do the sequel.
I really hope they do because I think it's a good story, and like I guess it didn't. I guess it didn't perform as much as they wanted it to,
Which is weird because I feel like
financially.
they went with the PG-13 in order to do better at the box office, which you know what I mean. Which I think also kind of hurt them as well because some people didn't want to see it because it was PG-13. You know what I mean? So I think it.
Yeah, and I think the production, like, I think it was kind of a troubled production. I think it went over budget, it went over long. I think there were reshoots. So all that I get. Maybe they don't want to go back down that road again, but I mean, I guess I hope they do, even though it's 8 years later, it's not really looking favorable. But in any case, I really like this movie. I've watched it, I think 3 times. I saw it twice in the theater and at least once at home, and I think it's just a really entertaining popcorn action zombie movie, and it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
So
I agree.
yeah.
I no, I agree. It's a great movie. It just narrowly missed my top 10. I think it's actually number 11 for me.
Ah,
So you weren't too far off from where I would put it. But yeah, it's one that I own. I love it. I always like and I guess people don't technically. Well, if you're purist, you might not even call these real zombies. So, but because they're the fast moving type and they turn super quick. No,
Yeah,
they're
and I
more
don't
like
think they're even officially dead. Are they? Are they officially dead, or are they just kind of like rabid, like 28 days later? And
yeah, they're more like Rabbit, like 28 Days Later, or Train to Busan, or Hashtag
yeah,
Alive, or
yeah,
the Omega Man, or one of those other ones that you know
they're
what I mean. Where
zombies.
yeah,
They're
but
zombies.
I just call them all zombies. I don't care what the purists say. To me, they're zombies. You know, anything that is human and then turns to something else and then wants to bite or eat other humans, I'm just calling them zombies. So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
and just leaving it at that. So,
Unless they're vampires, then they're vampires.
and yeah, then they're vampires. Yes, that is true.
Yeah,
That is a good point.
yeah.
Cool. All right, we'll go ahead and bring that
Well,
down. And
vampires are kind of zombies, aren't they?
in a in a nutshell, yeah. I mean,
They're dead.
you can make that link. They're the undead. So yeah.
Yeah, but they have a brain though, so it is different.
Yeah, they have a
Anyway,
brain they can think. Yeah, so that's the
yeah,
only
yeah.
thing that. But there are zombie movies where they can talk and they can think as well. So it's like one of the Night of the Living Dead's. Can't they
Return of the Living Dead.
Return of the
Yeah,
Living Dead? Yeah, they can like
yeah.
think and talk and stuff like that, right, or something. Or
Send more cops. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, cool.
They're movies. They're movies. It's
Your
the realm
movies.
of
Just enjoy it,
fantasy.
man. Just enjoy.
Yeah,
Just enjoy the ride.
yeah.
Moving on to my number 9. Which is going to be another kids doing bad things, Spring Breakers.
Ah,
So yeah, I mean, technically, I mean, there's, you know, it's hard to say that Spring Breakers is a better film than 12 Years a Slave, but I go off of enjoyment. You know, for me, I go off of films that I enjoy that I can rewatch again, and I hate when people get involved in the well, you know, how can you say that's better than this or better? It's for me, it's just about enjoyment. You know, they're films that I enjoy watching and I can rewatch over and over again. Well, 12 Years a Slave is a very powerful film and it's a great film. It's done beautifully. It's not the kind of film you're going to watch over and over again. You know what I mean? It's the kind of film you're going to be like, wow, that was really great. That was a phenomenal film. And then you're probably not going to watch it for another 5-10 years just because, you know what I mean? It's not the kind of film you rewatch over and over again unless you're either showing to somebody. So, Spring Breakers, on the other hand, I rank it higher just because I go off of watchability for me. It's one that I can put on every time. So Spring Breakers is basically about a bunch of high school girls that literally on spring break go down to like Florida and just get involved in all kinds of debauchery in terms of drugs and you know, sex and violence and robbing people, and they get hooked up with like this guy that's like an aspiring like rapper or whatever case may be. They hook up with him, and you know, he kind of gets them involved in like all this seedy drug trade life, and then he's got enemies and things of that nature that he's beefing with, and it's just a really violent, crazy film. And it's just like one you have to see to watch it, but it's crazy, it's over the top, and I don't know, I just kind of love it. It just I don't know, I just dig it. It's just a really fun, crazy, over the top film. And you know me, like, 'cause I'm always a sucker for kids doing bad thing films, so I always like those kind of films. I don't know why. It's just always fun to watch. You never would want your kids to be like this, but and we weren't like this as kids, obviously, but you know, it is always
speaking for yourself, Kier.
yeah, you're like, I was getting into all kinds of hardcore stuff. But no, I love it. So that's my number 9, Spring Breakers.
Yeah, I love this movie. I love it. Like your number 10. It's in my top 10, but it's up higher for sure. But yeah, I love this movie. You know, I wasn't too sure what to expect going in, but I know, you know, I've been a fan of Harmony Korine's Korine, I don't know, his stuff in the past. And I don't, you know, I like the feeling that, like, you know, it's such an unusual movie because it's like almost like satire in a way because it's not realistic.
No,
And there's
not
also,
at all.
I mean, from the very beginning, like that montage of all those spring break kids with the Skrillex song on the soundtrack, it's almost like an Aphex Twin video. It's like disturbing and creepy and funny and like bizarre and surreal at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, his casting these, you know, ex Disney stars like Selena Gomez and Vanessa
Right.
Hudgens as these kind of scantily clad people beating up and robbing people.
Right.
So it's almost like satire,
Right.
but I also like take it seriously when I'm watching it too. You know, I care what's going on. You know, actually, and it's got really great style. It's got action in it. It's got drama in it. It's got Visually, it's really amazing. And there's one moment, probably one of my favorite scenes in like all movies in like the past 20 years. And it's the moment where I knew like I loved this movie. And that's the scene where it has that montage of violence set to the Britney Spears song, you know, like the Britney Spears ballad and all this slow-mo like carnage and crazy stuff happening. I was like, wow, this is my kind of movie.
Sure.
It's not everybody else's kind of movie. I've
No,
shown
no,
it to
it's
other
definitely not.
people.
You know, just for sick, twisted people like you and I.
Yeah, I know. I've shown it to other people, at least two people. I've shown it to two people who are very close to me that I thought would really like it, and they really hated it. So I was like,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, so it's definitely not for everybody, but I absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love it.
I don't care. I love it. So
Yeah.
it's not going to get the best reviews and all that kind of stuff, but
It did get good reviews from critics, but like,
people
you know, people like, because I remember like it got like, you know, it's a young person. It looks like a young person movie, so a lot of high schoolers went to see it, and they didn't know what to make of it, obviously.
Yeah.
Even though I like to think if I saw that movie in high school, I would have loved it. I think.
I think I would have too. You know what I mean? But you know,
Yeah, because it's weird.
We were seeing all kinds of crazy stuff in high school though too. So
that's true.
We were seeing kids in high school and showgirls and everything else.
Leaving Las Vegas and
yeah. So we were seeing some pretty hardcore stuff back then. So,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, moving on to your number 9. I'll go ahead and bring that in, which is going to be The Spectacular Now.
So yeah, I like this kind of crisscross thing we got going here because it's like.
Well, this is another teen movie though, so yeah.
Yeah, it's a polar opposite from your number 9 though. So so this is a teen movie. It like again, it's a movie that I was not in my top 10 back then, but when I looked over my list, I was like, oh yeah, I really like that movie a lot. So I don't remember if you've seen it or not, but it's a really good teen movie. It stars Miles Teller, who got really big around the same time, I think the next year with Whiplash, when Whiplash came out, which is an excellent movie. And he's been in a lot of stuff since. Shailene Woodley, this was kind of her introduction, and she's been in a lot of stuff since this. But it's just a really good teen drama. You know, like it reminds me of a lot of like the Cameron Crowe movies, like Say Anything, movies like the 80s teen movies that were not. Like they were less John Hughes and more Cameron Crowe, kind of more realistic.
Yeah, not
blend
the
of comedy and drama.
Kind, not Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It wasn't like that type of teen comedy. It was more the serious teen comedies, I guess, if you will, or teen. No, I wouldn't say it's a comedy, just teen movies in general. So,
right, and I remember like it's just a really good mixture of like comedy and drama and realism and entertainment value. And I remember it's been a while since I watched it, but I've seen it at least twice. I know that. But I know Miles Teller plays kind of he's basically bottoming out. You know, he's an alcoholic, and he seems kind of
already
unsalvageable.
Pretty much,
yeah. And like his relationship with Shailene Woodley kind of brings him out of that. But that makes it sound kind of corny, but it's not corny. It's kind of like, it reminds me of like The Edge of 17. You know, that was another one that was kind of a good mixture of comedy and drama and realism, but kind of an 80s feel too. So it's just, if you like movies about teens that aren't goofy and have a little bit of depth, but are still entertaining and fun, that's one of the best, I think, for sure. Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, I have seen it. It definitely is a great. It narrowly missed my top 10 as well. It'd probably be like number 13 or something like that. But like I said, this was a really, really tough year for me, so that's not a slight on the film at all. In fact, I just rewatched it again the other night. I just wanted to rewatch a couple films that were close to my top 10 that I hadn't seen in many years, just to see if any of them got bumped up or bumped anything else down or whatever case might be. So I did rewatch it just about 4 days ago, I think. So not that long ago, but over the weekend. But it's a great film. It's really, really good. The acting's great. Like you said, Miles Teller's really, really good in there. It's got a pretty good cast in there. It also stars Brie Larson's in there as well. It plays
that's right.
On again, off again, girlfriend kind of thing. But yeah, it's just like I said, just kind of about a teen that's kind of like spiraling out of control with alcoholism. He's got some resentment towards like his mom and his dad splitting and that kind of stuff. And it's just a really, really good story. I definitely enjoy it. Definitely one that, like I said, is easily in my runner ups and definitely my top 25 of this year. So
Yeah, yeah,
cool,
cool.
well, great choice.
Yeah, we have a lot of agreements so far.
So far, yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling there's going to be a big disagreement coming up in a couple.
Yeah, you got a little bit of time, but yeah, definitely. At least for you, anyways. You might like all my films. I don't know. But speaking of which, moving on to my number 8, which is going to be Gravity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in fact, so far you've liked the two that I just said better than I did. You had them ranked up higher than I. So,
Yeah.
so Gravity, another really really good space film, if you will. We recently did a review on The Midnight Sky, which also stars George Clooney as well, which I felt like that film kind of ripped a little bit from this one because there's a lot of those same similar kind of scenes in there where they're, well, almost all those space movies, there's a scene where, there's like some debris flying around and they have to go up and like fix it and things of that nature and that kind of stuff. But this will star Sandra Bullock. It's got a few big stars in it as well. Just a really, really good, well-acted space film. It's got enough adventure and excitement in it to keep you entertained, and some really, really, gruesome things happen to them up there as well. But just a really, really good film. I just really, really love this film, Gravity. It's one that I don't own, and I probably need to watch it again. I haven't seen it. I've seen it since it was in theaters, but I haven't seen it in many years. It's probably been at least 6-7 years since I've seen it. But really, really good film, and that is my number 8, Gravity.
Yeah, that's a really good movie. It narrowly, I would say, it narrowly missed my top 10, but I really enjoyed it. I saw it at IMAX, which was a pretty incredible experience. It was in IMAX, and I think it was in 3D too. So there are those shots where, like, I remember there's one scene where before everything starts going crazy, and they just kind of, there's this really cool like pan from their point of view, just looking at Earth from space, and before things go crazy in the movie. And it's just kind of like, on that gigantic IMAX screen and in the 3D, it almost felt like you were there, like you were in space looking at Earth from space. And it's a really kind of interactive movie almost. It's so immersive.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very good, very exciting, really good movie. Just narrowly missed my top 10, I would say.
For sure. Yeah, I don't know if I saw it in IMAX or not. I don't remember. Maybe I did. I can't remember now.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I know the visuals were amazing regardless. So, but definitely good.
Right. Yeah.
All right, moving on to your number 8. Bring that in, and that's going to be Evil Dead.
Evil Dead, yeah. So this is yet another one that was not in my top 10 at the time, but when I'm looking over those movies, I'm like, yeah, I've watched this movie probably 5 or 6 times, I think. So I mean, like, it would be pretty silly for me to not put it in my top 10. But yeah, I love it. I'm a huge Evil Dead fan. The original series is great. A lot of the hardcore original series fans kind of turned on this one after a while. It's kind of weird. Like, fan culture is so frustrating in a lot of ways, because when this movie came out, there was actually a lot of positive hype around it. I mean, like, the trailer was amazing. It made it very clear that this is not a PG-13 movie. Like the original, this is going to have just fountains of blood. It's unrated. It's going to be crazy over-the-top horror. And it was. And I remember, like, when it first came out, like, it seemed like the fans, fan culture, they were all about it. And it seemed like they kind of turned on it over time. I don't know. Horror fans are weird. But I loved this movie then. I still love this movie now. It's a different animal than the original series. People have pointed out that it's not as funny. It's not as lighthearted. But I guess I get that. But I also point out that the original was also going for, while it was going for funniness, humor, it was also going for just like an all-out gore, in-your-face, insane, non-stop, unrelenting experience, which this movie goes for. It takes some of the humor out, yeah, but it's still a go-for-broke horror movie experience. And I think, seeing this movie on opening night in Hollywood with my brother, the night before going to a horror movie convention, in a theater just packed with Evil Dead fans. It was one of my favorite movie going experiences ever. None of the times I've watched it since have quite equaled that first time, but I still absolutely love this movie. I think Jane Levy is an amazing heroine in the movie, and it's exciting, it's fun, it's 85 minutes and done. The gore is over the top insane, and it's just like a full experience, especially for a horror movie fan. It's I like a lot of the horror movie fans don't like it now, but I still think it's one of the best of the last decade for sure. Evil Dead.
Cool. Yeah, for me, I was never a big fan of the original Evil Dead. It's just not my wheelhouse. I found it to be a little actually cheesy and silly in parts, which that's what a lot of people love about, and I get that and I respect that. So I actually, crazy enough, prefer this version because it's a little more serious and they took out the cheese factor of it. So it didn't come across as cheesy and goofy and silly, and in part just came off as a quintessential, just in your face horror film. Which is what I liked about it. So me, I know it's sacrilegious, but I actually preferred this one. Well, we've had this conversation before about how sometimes I prefer the remakes over the originals, but
hey, so do I sometimes.
Yeah, but I prefer this one over the original just because I found the original to be a little cheesy and over the top, which, like I said, I'm not arguing, that one's a classic and people love Ash and people love those films, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. They just don't speak to me that way, just because cheese cheese and horror doesn't always resonate with me that way. So that's just it. But this one is just horror. It's just straight horror, terrifying, like you said, unrelenting. And I like that about it. It didn't make my top 10 or my honorable mentions, but I did like it. I think I gave it like 3 out of 5. But it was a tough year. So in any other year, who knows? It might have been in my top 20 in any other year. It was just a really, really tough year. But I definitely did enjoy this one. So
cool.
And this might be the last one. I'm just joking. But I definitely did enjoy this one. So yeah, great choice. Like I said, and I don't know why, but like I said, for me, I just enjoy it better. I think because it's serious. So
yeah, cool. I get it.
All right, moving on to number 7. Moving right along. Made up a little bit. Well, no, we didn't. We're still going pretty strong here. My number 7 film is going to be The Wolf of Wall Street. I just like this movie. I just love it. It's funny. It's like anything I've never seen. It's got an all-star cast with, obviously Leonardo DiCaprio, Matthew McConaughey. It's got Jonah Hill, who's he's my favorite character in there, and it's just crazy. If you don't know the story, it's basically based off of the Wall Street guy that basically was basically kind of scamming people out of their money basically, and took off and started this huge firm on Wall Street and that kind of stuff, and it goes down the rabbit hole. They get involved in drugs and all kinds of stuff. There's this scene that's in this film that's like one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen, where he's on he's on drugs, he's on some sort of downer like Quaaludes or something of that nature. I can't remember specifically what he's on, and he's like driving in a car and he's like can't walk and he's like crawling. He's got like severe like paralysis and stuff like that. Is like one of the funniest scenes I've seen in my life, and it's just this crazy over the top like place where their work environment is just crazy because they're all like young rich kids. They're all like young like millionaires, and they just have like these parties, and they have like they bring in like little people. They do like what they call, and I know it's like midget tossing and things of that nature, and they do all kinds of just crazy hijinks in this film, and I just loved it. It's just a fun crazy film. It is really, really long, so I don't watch it all the time because it is like well over 2 hours, but it is just like a really, really fun film, and like I said, and I just love it. I just get a kick out every time I see it. So that's my number 7 film, The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, that's one that I need to watch it again, because I've only seen it the once in the theater back in the day, and I always intended to watch it again because this was like, it came out in 2013 when I had just gotten a new job, so I was kind of having to adjust to an 8 to 5 schedule, when before I had a job that it was primarily nights. I worked nights, and I'm already kind of a night owl. So I had to, my new job, it was right down the street from a movie theater. So I'd be like, oh, that's so perfect. I can get off work at 5 o'clock and go to the movie right down the street. But at the same time, I was still kind of adjusting to being up early in the morning, which means I was always dead tired after work. So believe it or not, I actually fell asleep in The Wolf of Wall Street. I don't think I missed very much of it, but I always knew, was like, man, I gotta go back. I gotta watch this again. So I don't know how much I missed. I always intended to go back, but I never have, and it's been 8 years somehow. But so it should probably be in my top 10, or at least my runner-ups. But it's one that I need to watch again and reassess, because I remember it being funny. I remember it being, I know it's like a record for F words. I know that. Like there's like 2,000 F words or something like that in it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because there was that show that was a Netflix show, Swear Words or whatever.
History of Swear Words. Yeah.
With Nicolas Cage or whatever, and they were talking about like what actor has used the most swear words of all time.
Oh yeah.
And everybody thought it was like either Nicolas Cage, because he was hosting the show, or using the F word. I'm sorry, the most. They thought it was either Nicolas Cage or Samuel Jackson that used the most swear words, but it's technically Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill has used more swear words than any other actor in history. He's such a record
something
for
like,
it. And a lot of it was because of this film. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like 547 times in this one movie or something like that. It's it's absurd. Yeah.
Yeah, this movie is great. Like I said, if you haven't seen The Wolf of Wall Street, I love it. Definitely one that I highly recommend. And Jason, you need to rewatch it. Yeah,
I need to. I need to see where it's available.
Yeah, it's available at my house.
For the reminder.
I'll get you a copy.
Yeah.
Cool.
I just might take you up on that.
Yeah. Moving on to your number 7, which is going to be a real treat. The Lords of Salem.
Okay,
a Rob Zombie film.
Yes. Okay, so I am a Rob Zombie fan. And Rob Zombie is a very divisive filmmaker. I think he is one of the purest of the horror filmmakers working these days. Someone who really, truly understands the genre from the inside out. And you can tell that from every frame of all of his movies, good and bad. And even among such a divisive filmmaker, even for him, this is probably his most divisive film. So, divisive filmmaker, this is one that his most divisive film. So this movie, it seems to truly, there are a lot of movies that are like this, but this is one that truly seems to split people right down the middle. Either you think this movie is the best thing he's ever done, the most artistic thing he's done, the most interesting and unique thing he's ever done, or you think it's the worst thing he's ever done, or the worst thing ever, some people. But me being number 6 in my top 10 for the year, I think you can probably tell where I came down on it. I'm already a Rob Zombie fan, but to me this was, if not his best movie, which I still think will always be The Devil's Rejects, this movie is definitely the most interesting and unique he's ever made. It's not the kind of hillbilly white trash horror that he's kind of famous for. It's something totally different. It's aiming for something more David Lynch inspired, Dario Argento inspired, Alejandro Jodorowsky inspired, Roman Polanski inspired, a completely different flavor from everything else he's done. And I think it is one of the best horror movies of the last decade, easily. It's not perfect. There are flaws, but I think it is a completely singular movie, which is rare, especially in the horror genre. It's actually the last great movie I think he did. I love House of a Thousand Corpses. I love Devil's Rejects. I love both of the Halloween movies that he made. And I love this one. After this, he made 31 and 3 from Hell, which I think it's kind of been a decline in quality, unfortunately. But I still think he's got more great movies in him. So yeah, that's my defense of Rob Zombie. I think he's a great filmmaker. I like his music as well as his movies. I think he truly understands the horror genre, and I truly don't think he gets enough credit. But I'll get off my soapbox now. You're in the other corner, Kier.
In the other corner, me. Yeah, I'll preface by saying I'm not a fan of Rob Zombie's music, but I'm not a big rock guy to begin with, so it's not my genre. As far as films, I could care less what your music tastes are. I just judge you based on your films. I have never been a huge Rob Zombie fan outside of the one Halloween film, the first one that he did. That's the only film that I've liked of his, and I love that film. I absolutely love it. It's actually one of my favorite Halloween films. Compared to all the other ones, it's definitely up there. It'd probably be in my top 4 of the Halloween films for sure. So that one I thought was a masterpiece that he did. I didn't care for the second one, and I absolutely loathe this film.
Yeah, I know.
I had to look up the grade that I gave it just now, and I gave it half a star. So, like
I said, it seems to be you either give this a half a star or 1 star, or you give it 4.5 or 5. It truly seems to divide people that way.
I don't remember what I gave House of a Thousand Corpses. I have to look that one up. I know that I didn't care for The Devil's Rejects. I expected to really like that film, actually. I thought I was going to enjoy it because I thought, like, these badass characters, I was going to really enjoy it. But it just came across so mean-spirited to me that I never really quite could enjoy it. I mean, I don't necessarily need my antagonists or not antagonists, I should say, anti-heroes to be goody-goodies. I don't mind if they're, are a little rough around the edges, but, these people are just bad to be bad, and there's no real redeeming qualities in them, you know what I mean? As opposed to, say, like, what am I thinking? Like, Dusk Till Dawn. You know what I mean? Like, the 2 guys in there, they're bad people. They're definitely escaped convicts. They're terrible people. But there's a little bit of redeeming qualities in them that I can enjoy. So I just don't jive with a lot of his films. I mean, I just don't, they're just not for me. So, and this one's definitely not for me. This one was probably the worst of all the films that I've seen of his. This is definitely the very bottom of the barrel for me. So not for me. And when you say it's kind of David Lynch-esque, that tells you all you need to know about where I would go in this direction, because I'm also not a fan of David Lynch at all.
Kier don't like weird. This is his weirdest movie too. That's another thing.
Yeah, so that's probably where they lost me. But yeah,
I still think you should give Devil's Rejects another shot, though. Man.
I'll probably watch it again. I mean, I could definitely. Maybe we'll do a rewatch challenge or something sometime. So we'll have to just think about those films. So, I'll forget all these movies that we've been talking about that we should make each other rewatch again. But maybe we'll do that sometime. Once we're done with our top 10s, maybe we'll make a list of films that we both need to rewatch again. So.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, moving on to.
I'll title it "Movies that Kier needs to correct his opinion about."
You can title it whatever you want. That doesn't make it so. Moving on to my number 6. We're finally wrapping it up here. My number 6 is going to be Blue Jasmine. I just like it. It's just like a really good, just like, stars Cate Blanchett. She's basically it's kind of like a rags or riches to rags tale, I guess, if you will. So she was someone that basically had it all and lived like this really posh, great lifestyle. Her husband was involved in a bunch of shady dealings and basically was, indicted and ended up going to prison. She basically lost everything and basically ended up having to like move in with her sister and kind of get involved in that. And I don't know, it's kind of a hard film to describe because it's kind of a drama, but it's also really, really funny. It's kind of a comedy, and she is a mess. So her character is a mess. She's super kind of into herself. She kind of thinks she's better than everybody, but she's got her own quirks and issues as well. And I don't know, I just like that story. I just thought it was really, really fun. I've actually seen it, I don't know, in the last year or two maybe, and it still holds up really, really well for me. It was probably actually back in 2013 lower in my countdown, but after rewatching it like a year or two ago, I ended up bumping it up because I just enjoyed the story so much. But yeah, I just think it's a really, really just fun, funny film. It's got a great cast in there as well, like, Louis C.K. before everybody hated him. So I think Peter Skarsgård is in there. It's got a bunch of people in there, but it's a really, really good story, great cast, great acting. And I want to say did she win an Oscar for this film, or was she nominated for an Oscar for this film?
I think she won. She was definitely nominated.
Yeah.
I think she won. I can't remember.
Yeah. So great acting. Obviously, her acting was phenomenal in this film. But that's my number 6, Blue Jasmine.
Cool. I love Blue Jasmine. Then as now, it just narrowly missed my top 10. Same back then. Just right outside of it probably. But yeah, it's great. I think it's I'm a big Woody Allen. I know Woody Allen's like a dirty word these days, but I think he's a great filmmaker.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
This is probably. I haven't loved everything that Woody Allen's done, but this might be. It's definitely in my top 3. I know I like this a lot. I like Match Point a lot, and I like another one quite a bit. So.
Yeah. I like tons of his movies. Not all of them by any means, because he's made like 1,000. But
for a while, he was making like one every other day. So, but
yeah.
But yeah, definitely he's definitely got a lot of really good movies in his arsenal for sure. But this one's definitely in my top 3 for sure. So.
Yep, for sure. Great movie. I still think he's a great filmmaker. I don't want to get into everything else, I guess, but I'll just say like I'm a Woody Allen fan still.
Yeah. And it's a whole nother debate, but we could go all day talking about separating the art from the artist kind of thing, and that's kind of where I always draw the line with certain people. It's like people, this whole cancel culture that we live in, it's just so. And I'm not saying that what he did is not right if they cancel him, whatever case may be, but it's like I just judge the films or the artists just based on the art. You know what I mean? I try to separate it from the person. Like Louis C.K. I love his stand-up specials. I love the shows that he's done, and he did some horrible, horrible things to women, and I totally condone all that.
You don't condone that. You said you totally condone all that. You don't condone it?
Yeah. Don't condone all that. But I definitely, think that you have to find a way to separate the art from, like I said, the artists themselves. So, there's been so many people in our history that we've, put on these pedestals and have holidays for that, did a lot of bad things. You know what I mean? Columbus, you know what I mean? Like, but nowadays we just live in a culture where they do bad things and they're pretty much canceled. So,
well, I'm all about like ditching the whole Columbus thing. That's for sure. Yeah, but I don't want to get into all this really, but with Woody Allen,
that's a whole other topic. We'll save that for another discussion. But yeah,
and I don't want to get into controversy or anything like that. But I mean, to me, Woody Allen has maintained his innocence from day one. He's been investigated, never charged. I'm not saying I don't believe victims. I do believe victims, but I think today there's like a rush to judgment, like a rush to guilt, and a rush to let's erase this person from history.
I mean, what is this?
I mean, he's never been convicted of anything.
Women has been kind of like the thing, and it's like, of course,
I do.
We should be believing women. I mean, I would never say you shouldn't believe women, but that doesn't mean you believe every single circumstance or situation that comes up regarding a person's life, because, especially if it's something that involves 2 people, I get it if it's been like, your R. Kelly's or whatever you think about Bill Cosby or whatever, when there's like 40, 50 people that are coming around saying the same thing, at some point I got to start, but it's like, there's this whole thing about just, we believe all the victims, and I don't know that that's always the case. I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I can't say one way or another. So, but if they're convicted, then hey, if a judge or a jury convicts them and says that they did it and they're guilty, by all means. But that still doesn't take away from the art that they did. That's all I'm saying. So
yeah.
And Blue Jasmine's still a great film.
Now we're going to get canceled, Kier.
Now we're going to get canceled immediately.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, moving on to your number 6. We'll wrap this up with the last one. It's going to be Inside Llewellyn Davis.
Inside Llewyn Davis. Yeah,
no, I'm sorry, Llewellyn. I'm sorry, Llewyn Davis. Sorry.
Yeah. This is a really great movie. I'm a Coen Brothers fan. I've liked every Coen Brothers movie that they've ever done, with the exception of The Lady Killers. I really didn't like The Lady Killers, but every other thing they've done, I've been a big fan of. This, I think, it's another one that, well, this might have been in my top 10 back then, but it's one that definitely has grown on me over the years. Like, I saw it in the theater when it first came out. I liked it a lot, but I wasn't necessarily passionate about it. But I've watched it 2 or 3 times since then, and I've liked it more every time, and I really, really like the soundtrack. It's just a really good movie about a folk singer back in the '60s in New York, when that was kind of a big thing, with Bob Dylan coming up, and Peter, Paul, and Mary. And it's funny, but it's also really dramatic. It's kind of what put Oscar Isaac on the map. I didn't have a clue who Oscar Isaac was before this, and now he's in Star Wars and all that kind of stuff. Ex Machina and all these really great roles. But yeah, it's just a really good movie. John Goodman is really good in there. Carey Mulligan is really good in there. Adam Driver is hilarious in there. But if you're a Coen Brothers movie, if you're a Coen Brothers fan, then you'll definitely really like this movie. It's probably not their most accessible work for non-Coen Brothers fans, but I just think it's a really good movie that's grown on me a lot over the years. And again, it's one of those movies that when I look at that, my best of 2013 list, that's one of the ones I feel most warmly for. So, yep, number 6, Inside Llewyn Davis.
Cool. I haven't seen it, so can't comment on it. But the Joel and Ethan, the Coen brothers, have always been kind of a little hit or miss for me. I would say I like probably most of the films they do, but there's definitely a lot that I don't like that people love. So I like some of the stuff they do. I just don't love everything they do. So their style's can be a little weird sometimes, or just different, which some people love about them, and I do love that sometimes about them, but I just don't care for all their films. I just have yet to see this one. So, but it didn't look like with my speed anyway, so I wasn't in a hurry to check it out. So
yeah, probably not.
Cool. Well, that's it. I can't say much about that one since I haven't seen it, and we're already an hour in. So that's our top our bottom half of our top 10 films of 2013. So obviously, let us know down in the comments. Have you seen these films? Do you like them? Too high? Too low? Your thoughts? Obviously, if there's other films that you feel like we didn't mention, well, we have another show, so we'll be bringing back our top 5. So we'll be doing our 5 through number 1, and then we'll also discuss some of our honorable mentions. So even if your film that you really love from that year doesn't make it in our personal top 10s, maybe it's in one of our honorable mentions. So just kind of go from there. But as always, if you like the channel, we ask that you like, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of the updates, and we'll be back again with another show for you guys again real soon. We thank you for watching and hope you have a great day. Bye.
Bye.